welcome to More Up North. This is our 27th episode, and I'm really glad you're joining us. Today is actually, when this is airing, this will actually be my birthday. So if you want to know what I'm doing on my big 40th birthday, then go over to shannyn.com and check it out. I've got a post up there. Enjoy the show. I had some of my favorite people here and talking about things that I really care about. We'll be right back. Thank you guys so much. Welcome to More Up North. I'm Shannyn Moore, and I'm really happy that Rhiannon Good is here. She's a campaign manager for No on 2. And this is something I wanted to talk about on the show today. We've got a panel that's going to be talking about it a little bit as well. Ballot propositions, we have them all the time.
We do.
And I think the left does them to drive people in. I think the right does them to drive them in. And when I look at the ones that the left drives in, it seems like they drive in people that perhaps want maybe wolves not shot from planes or salmon fisheries not polluted. Mm-hmm. When I look at what the right's driving in this case particularly, it's how to control and fear-base people about their sexual rights. And can you talk a little bit about specifically what's happened with 2 and who's sponsoring it?
Well, it's mainly sponsored by Jim Minnery and Alaska Family Council, so, you know, the usual suspects. And it's really, it's not even that much about abortion. It's really about family communication and the government trying to mandate how you communicate with your family, which you can't do. They've tried it in other states, and it doesn't work. And most teens already talk to their parents, and I'm sure Dr. Monique, who you'll have on, she's a pediatrician. She knows that most teens, they come in when they're facing these types of issues. And the ones who don't, they have a really, really good reason, and it's a small percentage. And for those teens who are in those abusive homes and are facing those situations, these type of government mandates that require a doctor to call the parents and send a note home and check 2 IDs, it doesn't help them. It doesn't do anything for them but make them scared. And I think we all know that pregnant teens to begin with are scared. And
well, they should have been scared into not doing it.
But
that doesn't always happen either.
And that starts, and we know the solution to that too. That starts with strong, caring families and communication way before an unplanned pregnancy occurs. But when that doesn't happen and they are facing that unplanned pregnancy, they're scared and they're desperate. And if they don't have someone to turn to, which in some cases they don't have a family member they can turn to, they do scary and desperate things.
Or if their family member that they're supposed to turn to is also the contributor of their pregnancy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, people don't like to talk about this in this state. They don't like to talk about our rape statistics. These things are not on the Visitors Bureau website. These things aren't in the brochure. Come to Alaska, you've got a better chance of getting raped than anywhere else. We don't put this out there, but it's true. And part of the thing, and I'm like making a joke about it to a certain extent, but part of the thing that really fires me up is that we don't talk about it. We don't say, this is who we are, this is our deal, and be grown up. Instead, we have this sort of juvenile outlook like, well, if we just say we're number one, then we're number one. It's like, That isn't the truth. And when it comes to the incest rates, I don't care if you're in a village, I don't care if you're in rural Alaska or if you're in Anchorage or Fairbanks, it doesn't matter. If it's at your house, that's really the only geography that matters. Mm-hmm.
And those teens, they don't need a judge, they don't need a court. What they need is counseling, and they need a doctor, and they need medical care, and they need it without delay, and they need it without bureaucratic nonsense that is just going to scare them into doing something desperate.
When you say doing something desperate, what do you mean?
Well, I think, in a lot of states where we have these types of laws, teens have a tendency to go across state borders, which you can't do in Alaska. Where are they going to go? They can't just hop to another state. And you've got the internet. Alaska is the most wired state in the nation. And you can hop on the internet and find a lot of really scary ways to take care of a problem.
What happens with some of those?
Well, there was
do we have any statistics on people in Alaska trying to abort their own?
Well, and it's hard because people don't keep those types of statistics. But you know, if you do read the news, there was just recently a case in Pennsylvania, and that's a parental consent state where they do have this type of a law where a girl just tried to self-abort with a pencil. I mean, and that was just in the news this week.
Yeah, the eraser doesn't work for that.
No, it does not.
God, that's horrific.
Yeah, it's scary.
Well, I can tell you, I'm a parent of a daughter who's a teenager. I wasn't a teenager when I got pregnant at all. I mean, I think I was 25 or whatever, and it was terrifying. It was terrifying in my mid-20s. I was just like, what? I have a parasite? What do I do? How does this happen? I have to grow it? How does it get out? I know how it got in. I was like reading like what to expect when you're expecting, and I'm thinking they really should just have this book in the library at school for kids, because if you read this stuff, you're not doing it. You're just not. You know, but that's not really part of the interest of this state, is to really put forward a really strong education program, I don't think, for this. But regardless of your age, I mean, anyone who's had a child, it's a terrifying thing. Even if it's like you're looking at the test and you're like, you know, you're marking out the weeks of the month where, hey, bump chicka bow bow, this is the week, you know, and you're really wanting that baby. It's still, you get the test and you're like, oh, it's a positive. Oh, it's scary, it's exciting, or it's scary and it's like, oh my God, why don't I just abort myself? There's a bus, I'll do it now.
I had gallstones and gestational diabetes. I mean, it was terrifying.
Yeah, well, it's just a really complicated thing.
It is.
And people aren't prepared for it, even if they're prepared for it.
Yeah.
So you go, you're 13, it's your dad. Maybe when he comes in to lay down with you, you could have him sign this form for your doctor. I mean, we're talking Papa Pilgrim sort of cases here.
Yeah,
correct?
And I know, and you're a mom, and I'm a mom too, and you know, we want our teens to come to us. We want our sons. I know I worry about the health and safety of my kid more than anything. But if you have that type of family, they're going to come to you. They just do, and that's what we see. It's those teens who just can't talk to their parents.
Right. My understanding are from several people I've talked to, last year there were less than 20 young women who had abortions of the age that we're talking about here. All of them had a parent with them, with the exception of 3. All 3 of those had a mandatory notice to law enforcement because of their parents. So this isn't like there's been this big free-for-all.
Nope.
It's actually working. Because if a parent doesn't come in and then they talk to this young girl and then they go, oh, well, we're not actually going to have you sign a form from your parent. We're going to call the cops or the troopers on your parent who did this to you.
And they take the doctors take that mandatory reporting very, very seriously.
So right now, Jim Minery is pushing this through. Jim Minery, who also is the sort of anti-gay, they run a lot of the anti-GLBT stuff, which is curious to me, because if you don't like abortion, you should encourage everyone to be gay. One problem could take out the other problem altogether, and if you think it's a choice, you should start recruiting to save the fetuses. I mean, it's ridiculous, really. And what I'm seeing from this is that this is a real powerful way to get voters to the voting booth, is that you say, the government or those doctors or those liberals want to kill your babies or your children's babies, and they want to do this, and you don't even get to give them a Tylenol at school without a parental slip, and all of these sort of things that do make, I mean, people go, you're damn right, but it's not really about you and your kid.
It's not. It's not, because we all want our teens to talk to us, and chances are they will. And this is really, I mean, it's about an intrusive government mandate that just sticks the government and bureaucrats and the courts right in the middle of families where they don't need to be.
We have this remarkable movement in this country called the Tea Party movement.
Yes,
I don't know if you've heard of it. Yeah. It's curious to me that oftentimes, and I've talked to a lot of these folks, that they really don't like the government. They don't like an intrusive government. Mm-hmm. They don't like a government who's telling them that they have to have health care.
Right.
They don't like a government that's telling them that they have to weatherize their house and go to building codes, for God's sakes. Things, they don't even like seatbelts. Okay, they don't want the government telling them what to do.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, this law would actually tell families how to talk to each other. And
it would try.
Right, that it would try. It's not going to be any more effective. A law on the books isn't going to make you talk to the child that you're abusing.